Hi, just a very quick 1 minute video, hopefully 1 minute, on why I think we've become more stupid as a society. And a lot of people extrapolate this problem due to some great philosophical notion like the loss of religious values if you're a conservative, the loss of meaning due to the market forces of capitalism if you're a liberal or socialist. The answer is actually much simpler than that. I think that in the vast majority of cases, what we're experiencing is a result of everything being put down to the lowest common denominator. Because when you think about it logically, in the overwhelming majority of countries, in the overwhelming majority of the economic systems, products that sell better are targeting a wider demographic. It is far more profitable to design a very easy to use product and only show it to, the audience that you want to sell stuff to, wider demographic, and not extrapolate beyond that than it is to make a really niche product that is difficult to use and selectively give it to chosen people in particular areas of that field. So what I mean by that is it is far easier to make a product that is simple to use, that is usable by more people and invest much less money into it than it is to make a very, very, very niche product that can only be used by some. And then once you make that general use product, then you can extrapolate all the difficult work of all of its practical applications up to the various kinds of modders that there are. So whether this is someone just programming on GitHub or someone that's tinkering in their garage, in every single case, you're going to find people that use your product for things that it's not meant for. If you don't like the way that it's affecting your product because it's ruining its image, you can sue those people in our system, right? If you like the way that they're doing it, you don't give them any credit, you steal their idea, and then you promote it on a mass scale because it will enhance the sales of your product, which is ultimately what you care about. So in these kinds of scenarios, we get examples such as programs, right? Let's think of a program, of a social media website. Let's say Twitter, which I still call Twitter to this day. It could have been a very, very, very niche idea, like some app or some development system similar to what we see now with Blue Sky, where it's decentralized or it's used for a specific purpose. But no, they just put that website out onto the internet, like Reddit, like YouTube, and then they saw what people used it for. And then they enabled people to use it for many different reasons, and then they made it very simple to use so that it would get the widest available audience so that they could then sell space on Twitter to advertise to marketers. Then people made the APIs, people made the plugins, people made the bots, people made the accounts on Twitter. The customer itself as a concept, the customer as the person became the main developer of the site. So the burden of actually modifying these products and making them useful now no longer falls on the developer, it no longer falls on the modder, it now falls on the customer. And the vast majority of things that we see in modern society, the vast majority of tools that we use, whether it's a social media website, whether it's a vehicle, whether it's a food product that we're consuming, it's targeted to the widest available demographic, and it is up to the consumer or the customer to decide how it is used, how they want to use it, and then export that cultural concept to more people, tell them what they want to do with this specific product, and then, even though in theory that's a good thing, that affects the positioning of that product in today's society, because it was ultimately the customers that decide, the consumers that decide the value and the orientation and the development and the pathway of a product, because they are ultimately the ones that are negotiating what price they want to pay for it and what price they don't. And while that gives people the ability and means to vote with their wallets by choosing what products they want to buy and thereby making them more common in a marketplace, it also creates a hindrance in common society. Because whereas there's a small subset of people that are really intelligent and skilled in various areas, which are two different things, there are subsets of people who are talented and who want to develop and make things. Those subsets of people are then divided and sidelined because the average person watching the television will actually be fairly intelligent in a Western country. But the least average person watching the television will always be someone that goes and looks at the TV and goes, red, pink, things like that. These people may not even be particularly mentally disabled. In the vast majority of cases, they're just lowly educated people who've never had the opportunity to advance that far in life. But the problem is that because these people also have disposable income, and because it is much more profitable to advertise to a wide variety of people with smaller incomes than it is to a small group of people with higher incomes, it is the common man that gets exploited as a result, because he's put in an unfortunate position as a customer, where even though he's voting with his wallet, he's also voting by his means. He is purchasing things dependent on how cheap they are. And things are usually cheap when there is substantially less demand for them. Demand only increases when the price goes up, right? Usually when the price goes up, that's a sign that the demand of the product is high, is what I meant to say. And when someone is buying products because they're cheap, they're not necessarily buying them because they believe and trust in the quality of the product. They're buying them because it is the only available product, which then shows the company that they can sell this product for cheap. This is the same thing as happens with political parties. Last year in the United States presidential election, even though I am a U.S. citizen, I did not vote. If I had to vote, I probably would have voted more towards the Democratic side. But as it stands, on the vast majority of issues, whether they be foreign or domestic policy issues, I don't align with the Democrats. So even though I dislike the Republicans in certain ways, where I cannot bring myself to agree with the general ideology and the trend of the Republican Party, I also cannot vote for the Democrats, because by then I'll be giving them the electoral democratic mandate of my vote by showing them that I will support them no matter how many mistakes that they make. And I wouldn't like myself to be put in that position, which ultimately leaves me as an independent for now. And that, unfortunately, is a very troublesome case. But it's quite negligible to the fact that voting has no real impact. And if you think that voting does anything, after making all these vast comparisons and adjustments about modern society, you're probably not that intelligent yourself. I never claimed to be, but I think even unintelligent people can say that voting has no real power. With that said, the pandering of things in media to the lowest common denominator creates a cycle where, because it is the stuff that has the least amount of effort put into it, the least amount of production value, the least amount of clever inside jokes, and the vast majority of media is simply recycled for the sake of being recycled, so-called slop, now made with AI slop. We're now getting a loop where everything just gets dumber on the internet day by day. So intelligent discourse that could have existed on the internet in the 1990s, had we figured out how to properly express ourselves, the way we tried to do with emoticons, the way we tried to do with various text formatting styles in order to give that sort of speech and emphasis as we did, adjusting to this new kind of reality where we can both text and communicate instantly at the same time, which both never coexisted. You either wrote letters and someone received them 3 weeks later, so you have to make the letters more formal and readable for your viewer, or you were talking face to face with a person or over the phone with your voice. There was never such a case as us communicating by text instantly. So whereas in the 1990s, in the early of the internet, we could have adjusted to these things and somehow made a better way to communicate, we've devolved down to skibbity brain rot with the Labubu Dubai chocolate. Skibbity brain rot with the Dubai chocolate Labubu and the gooning layer edging to this right now. You're just saying bullshit. It's like we just say bullshit. We just say bullshit because everything that we wanted to say has already been said, because everything that has been profitable to say has already been said, and everything that was relevant to happen happened anyways. So the only way to actually live your life and distance yourself from this is to detach yourself completely from outcomes. Action theory, again. Detach yourself completely from outcomes. Forget about the recurring things that are happening around you throughout your life. Forget about all these patterns, and simply detach yourself by realizing that nothing that you do will ever be significant, as it has probably been done before. Any skill you're good at, there's a Singaporean kid who's better at it than you. If you're trying to do something for the sake of being the best at it, you probably are never going to be the best at it, and you're probably never going to achieve that thing anyways. You need to want to do things because you enjoy them. And it just so happens that the vast majority of situations where you combine various things that you enjoy and then you set patterns for them, the cases where you can lump in the most amount of these are the same things that self-improvement gurus tell you for your life, right? all these self-improvement idiots on YouTube. They're just like, you need to go to the gym, you need to exercise, you need to have a hobby, you need to have a skill. Yeah, great advice, except this goes in a combination, right? It's a certain lifestyle that you must have. It's a certain amount of skills that you must combine at once. And there's certain bad habits and vices that you will need to integrate into that, and you will need to decide whether you want to cut your addictions or vices on certain things, like whether they be sexual gratification or whether it is gratification with substances, whether it's caffeine, nicotine, alcohol. Goes all the way up probably to crystal meth or black heroin, right? Black tar heroin. It goes all the way up, right? It goes from the very bottom, like very basic addictions like video games and drinking too much cola, to the worst vices that you could possibly have in life that will for sure ruin you and your perspective of yourself and perhaps your soul. So you need to decide where to draw that line. And ironically, there is no correct answer. But the correct answer perhaps is, according to my own view, detaching yourself from the possible outcomes and possibilities, because once you hold yourself up to be some type of human or some type of person, the moment that you go outside of that boundary, you'll no longer feel like yourself. And all of modern media brought down to the common lowest denominator, made to appeal to the stupidest people possible, so that people, at least at that level, could still buy product, could still watch ads, could still participate and contribute in society. Partially why we lowered the voting age to 18, right? We wanted to make everything as broad as possible so that we could exploit the most amount of people possible. We just need to realize that in spite of all of that, in spite of everything that is happening around us, right, we can decide where to draw the line. We can decide what to do, what to feel, what to think. And it doesn't necessarily need to be reliant on the expectations of the vast majority of society, because the vast majority of society is getting stupider week by week by week, day by day by day. And I think if we really look at this objectively, then it strikes us as something that's obvious, yet it's something that I wanted to explain in 1 minute, and it took 12 minutes to explain. That's it. Sorry for not uploading for a while. I'm probably not going to upload for a while anyways after this. Sorry for my brief little depressive rant, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace, and bye-bye.